And we are recording. Hello,
Wow.
everyone. My name is Erika Briones, and I am a sexual confidence coach. And today we have a special guest. His name is Chris Maki, and
What's going on?
is a transformational expert, and he's known for the subconscious. So today we're going to really ask him some deep questions. And Chris is a former DJ. He has an amazing heart. He is here to create peace on the planet, and he has amazing channeling gifts with Bernard. Bashar.
Bashar.
Bashar is this, so if you're not sure what aliens have to do it with consciousness, it's really amazing. He has like amazing stories. So some of these topics are a little bit taboo, and trust me, we will talk about
Ooh.
sexuality and how it affects the subconscious. So introducing my guest right there, that guy who looks like, what's the guy from Lord of the Rings? I know everyone's watching Game of
One of
Thrones,
those
right?
elves.
The elf. He just needs his elf ear. So, Chris, welcome to this amazing interview.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Okay, so tell us about what is the subconscious and why should people care about it?
Well, the subconscious is like the hard drive of your computer. It stores all of your information. All of your automatic processes come out of it. So anytime you interact with yourself, anytime you interact with the world, when you interact with people, the way you do it, how you relate to those things, all of it comes out of your subconscious, and all of it comes from your past. So if you are trying to shift your life or transform it in any way, you need to go into your definitions and your belief systems so that you can shift those. So a little data for you: your subconscious processes about 11 million pieces of information every second, and your conscious mind processes 40. So that just gives you an idea of the power of your subconscious and how much it's really driving the ship. So there's a lot to it, and we're going to get into it, but essentially it's the storehouse of everything that you are.
And that's amazing. I mean, I never knew much about it. I just remember doing meditations, and somehow I just felt more present. And my meditation teacher was always telling us about this. There's like a hard drive and a software. Like the hard drive is like the physical phone, and the software is, the apps on the phone. So earlier we were trying to do Zoom, and, we're broadcasting this September 1st, 2017. So if you're watching us from the future, this is like back in the past. Mercury in retrograde is going on. We're going through, Hurricane Harvey. I mean, technically we're both in California. So, we're
No,
sending
we're
love.
not.
And earlier we were literally trying Facebook Live, Zoom, and Be Live TV, and it was a mess. So, I'm sure that like a lot of us can learn from this, especially how it shows up in the bedroom, right? And I would love to hear, like, does the subconscious affect us sexual humans in the bedroom?
Of course. So anything, it affects everything. So if you're if you have trouble in the bedroom really being vulnerable, or quote unquote performing, or really being able to connect with your partner, most likely you have some stuff in your past that's blocking you from being able to open up those channels and be the version of you that can, or that feels like they deserve to have those things. So a lot of the blocks we have are self-worth issues, and they show up as past experiences and definitions that we create out of those past experiences. And that's the important part. It's not the events that happen. It's the way we define them.
And I'm like wanting to hear, is it okay to ask like your experience when you're with someone who's not quite there in the bedroom, like,
Yeah.
you know, like talking about the past Chris, like, you know, when you were younger. I'm not sure. Was that like a few days ago? Just kidding.
I was younger a few days ago. Yeah. I think that's accurate.
Like an example is, I shared the story. I went to Arizona, and I don't know if he's going to be watching this. It's the guy I used to date. I was drinking mimosas at Brick and Mortar, and I had like all of the mimosas by myself, and this guy with like an 8-pack. He's like, come over, and I said, I'm driving to Arizona. So I drove there, and then within like 2 hours I said, oh crap, I'm actually driving to Arizona. And then after we had sex, he's like, sweetie, that was terrible. I think you're
Ooh.
like a virgin. I feel like it was bad. It was bad.
Ouch.
And then I said, I'm going to be like a fucking sex goddess and a queen. I'm going to read all of the books. So in a way, I thank him if he's watching this. Definitely different. Give me a second chance.
Hey, there you go. Green light.
But I wanted to say that, like, my friend actually shifted that vocabulary from you weren't bad. You were just not like practicing. You were not engaging, or you were not participating, right? Because you have a choice. You can be on the benches watching the game. Like some people can just be like watching this and doing nothing, just, you know, swipe, swipe, swipe. Or they could just, you know, have a choice to be someone who's creating, who's using that like sexual energy for creativity. And I don't want to like hijack the conversation. I just want to hear like your take on this.
Well, to answer your first question, I've definitely had experiences of a lack of connection in the bedroom, and it absolutely has everything to do with the people involved and how they relate to vulnerability and how secure they feel with their bodies and with themselves and their heart, because these things all come into play, right? So yes, for sure I've had that experience.
Okay. And when you see someone who's not quite there, like, what advice can you give to the guys to like be present to those women that are quite not there? Like, let me give you an example. When that guy said you're bad in bed, wrong example of what not to do to someone who's like very sensitive and an empath. What would you do instead? Because I mean, someone who's sensitive and who comes from sexual trauma, and I'm sure that we can hear more about your story. What would you do instead of saying, well, that was awful, you're horrible?
Yeah, that's exactly what not to do. Coming from a place of compassion, number one, you got to make them feel safe. And you have to love on them. You have to really, you have to open up. You have to be the example for them, so that they can feel safe enough to open up. And hopefully they're willing to. And if they're not, you can't force anyone. So maybe they're not right for you. Maybe that's just not what it is. But at the very least, if there is something for you to do, it's to be vulnerable yourself, to show them that they're safe. Women need that security. I mean, men do too, but women in a different way, I'd say. And so if you can hold that masculine space and really hold that masculine energy, it'll allow them to unfold their feminine and blossom in the bedroom. Right? And that's what we want.
That is such a beautiful take on that. And I'm sure a lot of guys would love to learn more from you. And actually, I would love to hear more about your story, because we were talking about vulnerability, and I shared a little bit about me, and a lot of my viewers know that I come from sexual trauma, and it's really important to work on that subconscious area, right? So what was your story? Because you have a kind of a really powerful story, because you were a former DJ, and now you are a transformational expert, and you know about NLP, which is absolutely amazing. What's the story? Like, what's the mini TED Talk version?
That's a good way of putting it. Mini TED Talk. Okay, so I grew up with my grandparents. My parents were not there. My father was alcoholic, meth addict. My mother was abused and unable to be there. I didn't really meet her until I was 18. So I literally grew up with my grandparents. They were my parents. And there was just a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma. My grandmother was dying of heart disease the whole time growing up. She had 5 heart attacks, 2 heart transplants. She was in a coma. My grandfather was really abusive, difficult man. He used to lock me up, and there was a lot there that went on that created a version of me that was utterly suicidal, dark, depressed, and really incapable of loving myself at all or seeing being worthy of living. I really got the light snuffed out of me at a really young age, and I grew up in that space, in that darkness, and I knew that I was here for a reason and that I had to fight through it. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that there was something really powerful for me on the other end. If I had known it was going to take 20 years to get through it, I don't know if I would have lived.
Wow.
But I did make it through. And along the way, I started channeling some entities, and they taught me all about the subconscious.
Yeah, I wanted to tell the viewers, before we get into that, like how we actually met is, so, you know, we met through my coach's event, and I was taking qualia, which I actually took some today.
Nice.
And when he met me, I was like, my heart was beating fast, but actually qualia is really, really good supplement to take. I think I just had coffee.
I thought I was making your heart beat fast, but it was the quality.
See, like this is like conscious flirting. Anyways, so last night we were talking about channeling, and I know that sounds like, what does this have to do with sex? But you know, sex is also a spiritual, you know, an energy, and when you like really tune into that and you breathe through that, you'll start to like really hear this amazing voice, right? So some people that channel, I think even Louise Hay or Abraham Hicks, they channel, and it's really
Abraham is the channel. Abraham
okay.
is the entity that is channeled. Yeah.
Got it. Because some people that don't really understand, like, how can you describe channeling to people who have kind of like a 5th grade mind?
Well, let's just assume everyone is an extremely intelligent person. And given that channeling is essentially a natural state that everyone gets into whenever they're in the flow. So anytime your time is just flying by, or you're working on something and you're just being creative and things are just coming out of you, you're in a channeling state. It's a natural state. Everyone does it. Now, you can take that state and you can use it to connect to intelligence in many forms. You can channel anything. You've heard about mediums channeling.
Yeah. How can that show up in the bedroom? Like, can someone like channel, like, oh, I want Channing Tatum to channel? I'm just kidding.
I guess yeah, you could probably channel a version of you could channel a version of yourself, really, in a flow state that is like superhero in the bedroom.
Yeah, well,
but you just being in the flow is going to assist in you getting down.
Well, it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because the book Urban Tantra, which was like Barbara Carrella, she dedicated it to Lewis House, who she just passed away recently, and they talk about sex magic. And sex magic is like, right now, if people use their orgasms to send that healing energy to Houston, it might, like, ironically, like, save some people. I don't know how, which is really, really like a stretch for some people. Like, people might even turn this broadcast off because that's extreme. But I mean, you know, there's a lot of Taoist principles and a lot of people that talk about, you know, like metaphysics. And I'm sure that you can probably break down, like, how does that vibration and how does that like show up? I'm not sure if that's even making sense.
Yeah, well, so what you're talking about, yeah, totally. So what you're talking about is quantum entanglement. And
Okay.
that's essentially when two particles are connected, no matter the distance, and when you affect one, you affect the other at the same exact moment. So given that that is a real phenomenon, it shows that we're all connected and that there is a web of energy that we can influence. There's a lot of experiments also, like the 100th monkey experiment, that shows that we're all connected. There's been meditation studies that have reduced crime rate, and the math against that actually being accurate was so astronomically impossible. It was just improbable for it to not be the meditation that dropped the crime rate. So there's a lot of science behind that we are all connected. And certainly with intention, you can take energy, especially sexual energy, because it's so creative.
Mm-hmm.
And you can send it places, and who knows what it would do or who it would affect, and you wouldn't know. You'd never know. But the universe doesn't waste energy. It is extremely efficient. And so it will take that energy and do with it what it will.
Hmm. That's really powerful stuff. And I'm sure that we both come from trauma, and somehow we change it because of the subconscious, right? Like, for
Yeah.
you to go through what you just went through, right? You went through a dark depression, and I believe you just did a video about you can overcome depression by being yourself. What was the moment that, like, there was like a light that just turned on and you were like, I cannot go back to that person again? Like, what was that switch for you? Was it when you met
Um,
your when you discovered your channeling gifts?
it came in stages. It came through channeling. That was where I was taught how the subconscious works, and
And who
I
taught
was
you?
like peeled apart. I'm sorry.
And it you said it peeled apart? Okay.
You're cutting out. Say that one more
Okay.
time.
And I said, who taught you?
Bashar.
Okay. And I think if you go on YouTube, people can see it's like actually um a phenomenon that people have done that, right?
Yeah,
And
Bashar is channeled by a professional named Erika. He's been channeled by him for like 35 years or something. And I got into Bashar, and I learned to channel him. And somewhere along the lines, I was able to heal and heal and heal and heal and heal and peel back the layers of my subconscious.
mhm.
I'm someone who comes from the underground, the streets. I used to be kind of a bad kid, and
How
um,
bad? I just
I wasn't. Well, that's an entirely different conversation, I
I
think.
know.
But
Get people to like get energized today, you know, even like laughing and flirting, and you know, it's so powerful what that can do for women. Is just like not be afraid to just be yourself. And that's what Chris talks about, is, you know, overcoming depression by being yourself.
yeah. So let me real quick. Let me finish what I was saying. So along the way, I got into channeling him and verifying whether it was legit or not. I didn't just swallow it and just, oh yeah, for sure this is happening, and that's it. It was years of me working with these entities and them proving themselves to me. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
someone who just takes it as true unless it's true. I'm a truth seeker, and I will find the truth. I always do. And I found this to be true, and every day it still shows up, and it's valid, and it is in line with my intuition. It's in line with my divine timing, and it never goes against the grain of my natural self, because if it ever did, I wouldn't use it.
Hmm.
Now, given that, what I learned is that you being you, the authentic version of you, the version of you that you were when you were a kid, before you had all these definitions and language and the ability to define yourself, you're pure love, you're pure light, you're just awareness, you're just there. You just play, you explore, you expand, because that's your birthright. What happens is when you gain language, you have the ability to start to define who you are. You start to define yourself based on what your parents do. And then later what your society does and what your friends do. And you take all these things on, and if they are not your truth, if they're not in line with who you really are, they weigh you down.
Hmm.
And it slows down your frequency, it slows down your vibration, and then you start to manifest shitty things. And after a while, you take actions based out of these illusions that you carry around from your parents, from your family, etc. And you start to experience a negative version of life, because life is just a reflection. So if you want to change your life, you have to change yourself, right? Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. That is literal. One of the things Bashar says that I think is beautiful. So if you see a frown in the mirror, right, and you want to see a smile, you don't go to the mirror to try and turn the frown into a smile. You smile, and the mirror has no choice but to smile back. And that is essentially the core of healing. It's essentially the core of getting rid of trauma, of stepping into a new version of you, of even high performance, just stepping into a bigger business. It's all you coming into your true self, your true essence, and letting go of anything that isn't you. And if you do that, you will be able to experience a life that is truly magnificent, full of joy and passion and love. Because as you let go of the things that aren't you, the passion and the joy and the love that you are rise to the surface, because they are your natural self. And because life reflects who you are, it has no choice but to give you back excitement, joy, passion, and love. So if you're dealing with depression, anxiety, suicide, or you're just blocked with manifesting bad relationships, or your trouble with money, it doesn't matter what it is. It is always your past. It is always how you define it and how you define yourself. And if you're defining these things in a negative way, life, because it's a mechanism, can only give you what you are.
That was really amazing. Mostly because you talked about authenticity, and I remember listening to someone who was there was like a challenging question that she said. There's people that they're themselves, but they're irresponsible, right? There's a level of how to be more responsible with being yourself, because there are people that are themselves and they're not in alignment. And I believe that.
See, that's not true. You can't be yourself and be out of alignment. That's impossible. You being in alignment is you being yourself. Now, look, we're complex beings. We have many, 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 many layers to us. So you can always wake up into more of yourself, and we constantly do this. We will do this till the day we die. It is our birthright. So you saying someone knows who they are, but they're irresponsible. Someone knows who they are, but they don't love themselves. Someone knows who they are. No. That's proof that they don't know who they are.
Got it. And something that's it's really interesting, because there was an article that it was about how complicated it is to date an empath, and there was some women challenge. No, this is like pretty deep, so I'm like excited because we're going over time, but I'm so excited because I'm like whatever.
Let's go.
So there was an article about empaths. Like some women say, I can never date a man who's an empath because they're too sensitive. And there were some other women that were actually defending that, you know what, everyone, you just have to learn how to deal with them. Because, for example, if I'm an empath and I'm dating an empath, let's just say we're both dating, we have to one person's going to be stronger at that moment. And it's just like recognizing when you're off your course. I'm not sure if I'm making
Yeah.
sense right now,
Yeah,
but
totally.
like because I used to date someone who was really sensitive, and the reason I couldn't date them is because they were not confident enough to stand on their own 2 feet because they were codependent on me, right? But
Right.
there's self-awareness tools, like say for example, they realize that they're kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like the words are in my thoughts, but I can't figure it out.
Do you want some help?
Yes, please.
So to speak to that, I think um, being an empath is really it gives a man or a woman an ability to be vulnerable on a different level because we connect with emotions so much. So yes, there's going to be breakdowns emotionally with either sex. And if both of them are empaths, then they should be able to give each other compassion and space because they know what it's like. So that gives, again, it's compassion. It comes down to compassion. Whether you're an empath or you're not, we're all going to have breakdowns. But specifically with empaths, I think empaths have the ability to love deeper and harder and longer and stronger because we are constantly forced with the choice of whether we're going to love this situation and love ourselves or not, given that we're impacted by what someone said or did or the space they're in so strongly. And we have to constantly battle ourselves and battle our inner state and stand in our truth. And I know that as I've gotten older and as I've peeled back the layers of my past and gotten rid of my trauma, me being a sensitive empath does not impact me like it used to.
And it's definitely seems that you've are not just on the spiritual quest called life. You're also constantly working with yourself, and you have like amazing coaches that are just pushing you forward, right? Because there are people that they might meditate and they buy crystals, but they also have that different level where they're keeping accountable, they're reading tons of books, they're constantly striving to the next thing. Like I think we both were talking about how we're both fans of Tony Robbins, and I think Tony Robbins has that extra edge of right contribution, compassion, certainty, and like
Yeah.
resilience, right? Because if he's just, and he even talks about, I'm not your guru, like I'm just here to like get you off your ass and do something. And that's what we're both doing. Is while we both like to meditate and talk about consciousness, we're also like manifesting things. We're also like right now we're creating this valuable content. We're creating this amazing juicy energy so we can share that. And if you feel like you are just like you don't believe you can do it, you can do it. Like you can do this video, but sometimes our story of who's going to see it, my family's going to see it, that ex-boyfriend's going to see it, the guy in Arizona is going to see it, Tony Robbins going to see it. Hey, I hope Tony Robbins watches this. Hey, Tony.
Yeah, me too. What's up, Tony?
So yeah, I just wanted to share that. And before we wrap up, like, can you share more about your vision? Because you have like a beautiful vision about bringing healers together, and then also share a little bit more about how can people find you, like if they want to like connect and learn more from you.
Sure. So I have a company called Ascension Axe, and I essentially want to bring a bunch of healers and coaches together, kind of like a record label would a group of artists. And have a brand that really represents elite coaching, elite healers, and stands for the spiritual metaphysical community in the world, in the wider world, sort of like the Apple of healing. So people can come and heal and have a space for people to come to. They want to take a yoga class, and then right after they want to jump in a float tank, and right after that they want to do an ecstatic dance course, and setting up spaces for people to come and heal in whatever way they want, and have them know and understand that if it's stamped with Ascension X, it's legit. And then beyond that, later on in the future, my vision really, and my mission, why I survived through all that crap, is to bring a bunch of people that are healed and in a positive place, who are passionate about it, to come together and take direct action to change things on our planet and deal with a lot of this drama and strife and negativity that's going on in a very physical way on the planet here. There needs to be direct action. There needs to be physical bodies going and getting together and doing things to make things happen. You know, Gandhi did it right. The things he did moved consciousness. He kicked the British out of India just by getting people to maneuver and to get out and come together. So when people do that, they can bring change. And I think we've been taught that we are not powerful, and it is absolutely wrong. So that is my long-term goal, my life's work, if you will. It's going to be a long road to that, but it's something that I can stand for to help create peace on this planet.
That's so beautiful and so sexy. I'm sure a lot of girls are like, oh my God, I want to talk to Chris. You're going to be getting all the unsolicited women pics. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see what happens. So I just wanted to just say thank you so much for this broadcast and interview. How can people find you? How can people connect with your this vision that you have? Like, any last famous words?
Any famous last words before I die, huh? Okay. Since I'm going out, no. You can hit me up on Facebook at Chris Ascension Axe. You can add my personal page. I got room for friends. Or my Instagram at Maki Nation. That's Makii Nation. And you can look me up on YouTube at Maki Pause for Peace.
Yes, everyone, go check out Chris, and thank you so much. We really dove deep here, and I really am grateful for your vision, your contribution. You shared tons of amazing, valuable information. And again, if you want to learn about conscious dating or the subconscious, reach out to Chris. And for the women that want to learn how to become sexually confident, hit me up at erikabrionesofficial@gmail.com, or go to my website, erikabriones.com. You can just call me Erika. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
To find you so
everything.
happy and so sexy.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.